Ryan, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Ryan,
You didn't show up for a second, but I think we're good.
Could you hear any of my introduction?
I could not. The intro video, the countdown hit 0, and then it was just kind of on that orange screen for about 10 more seconds.
Okay.
And then you popped up.
Yeah, it froze on my end, I believe. So we'll start over. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He is my co-host, Ryan Blake. Ryan, thank you for taking a break from T-ball today. I know you've got an award ceremony coming up after the show, so we'll try not to stay till 11:30 today. We will not stay till 11:30 today. We won't try. We will succeed.
There were so many rainouts throughout the year. We weren't supposed to have anything this morning, and then our last game just wrapped up. Zoomed over to my parents' house to do the show, and then got to be back there in a little bit for awards and apparently a water balloon fight. So that should be interesting with a bunch of 4-year-olds. We'll see.
Well, hopefully they're biodegradable water balloons.
I hope so.
So today's show brought to you by Royal Farms. So no one's surprised around here. USA Today has named Royal Farms the best gas station for food in America. Take advantage of $7.99 Texas Toast Club sandwiches, a 12-piece Rofo chicken mix for $20, and 2 for $6 hot good-to-go sandwiches right now. Plus, if you upgrade your Royal Farms rewards account to include Rofo Pay, you'll save 15 cents per gallon on gas through the end of the month. So stop by your neighborhood Rofo today and find out why Royal Farms is truly number one. So last night, Ryan, I got to be honest. I worked in the restaurant last night, with a new baby trying to make some extra money. And the Orioles are up. It's the 5th inning. They're up 3-2. He just struck out. Grayson Rodriguez had just struck out Yordan Alvarez on a high fastball. There's a runner on first base. There's one out. And I'm like, all right. I go grab a check from a table. I come back. I'm gone. I'm telling you, less than 2 minutes. I look up. It's 5-3 Astros. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And then I saw a guy with kind of flowing brown hair. And I'm like, Kyle Tucker just took them deep again. And I posted on Twitter until I realized that it wasn't Kyle Tucker. What was the guy's name?
Jake Myers.
Jake Myers. It was Jake Myers, which made me feel even worse about it. Is Kyle Tucker playing? Is he hurt?
He's on the IL. Yeah,
he's on the IL. That's what I thought. So, that thought didn't even cross my mind when I thought that it was Kyle Tucker last night. Either way, he gives up a big 3-run homer. The Orioles now find themselves down 5-3. They go 3 up, 3 down in the top of the 6th inning, and Grayson comes back out, which I'm okay with. But hindsight's 20/20. Not okay with it. He ends up giving up 7 runs on the game. They take him out. Dylan Tate and Jacob Webb come in, and they both just crap the bed completely. The Orioles give up 9 runs in the 6th inning last night. 9 runs. So that game goes from them leading 3-2 in the 5th to them trailing 14-3 in the 6th. And the first thought that goes through my head is, I have to talk about this garbage for over an hour tomorrow on my show. And I was so upset. I'm like, are you kidding me? Every time they have their worst game of the year, it's on a Friday. That 11-1 loss to the Brewers was on a Friday. But then the Orioles get up. They got a home run from Gunnar Henderson in the 7th inning. Now it's 14-4. All right. At least Gunner's still trying.
Sure.
Then you get to the 8th inning. And Jorge Mateo hits a 2-run homer. And you're like, all right, at least they're not going down without a fight. Then Gunnar hits a 2-run homer. And you're like, holy crap, it's 14-8. Then Adley doubles, Mountcastle doubles, and now it's 14-9, and Santander comes up and hits a 2-run homer. 3 2-run homers in the 8th inning. It's 14-11, and you're like, holy crap. Can they really do this? Every time that happens, we get let down, right? Yeah. We never see this team. We see the team come back a lot, but when it's an epic comeback like that, they never quite make it there. They could be down by 8 runs and get it to within 2, but they don't win, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. To be down 11 after 6 innings, to be down 11 runs and make that a 3-run ball game and get the tying run in the on-deck circle in the 9th inning is absolutely ridiculous. This team, they just don't quit. They just don't quit. They scored 17 runs on Thursday afternoon against the Yankees. And it's like, I mean, they bludgeoned them. They had to bring in Luis Trevino to pitch, their catcher in the is that his name, Luis Trevino?
Jose. Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares?
Trevino. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who cares about the dude who kicked Colton Cowser's bat back at him after he was hit by a pitch?
Yeah, and can't throw a baseball anywhere.
That was fun.
Yeah, they had to bring in their catcher Trevino to pitch in the 9th inning of that game, and then part of me was like, man, when the Orioles have an offensive outburst like that, they usually score like 3 runs the next day, like 3 runs or less. And to that point, you're going into the 7th inning, they've scored 3 runs and they're down 14-3, and it's like it happened again. Hell of a lot of fight in this team. Adley collects 5 hits. Gunnar reaches base 4 times, hits 2 home runs. Mountcastle had a great game. The fight in this team, Ryan, is they don't think they're out of any game.
Yeah, it's special. I mean, an 11-run deficit is all but insurmountable. And like you said, to be in a position where the tying run is in the on-deck circle in a game in which you were down by 11, it's truly remarkable. I actually was at the Bay Sox game last night. A friend of mine and I went over there. And Bay Sox got shut out. We left in the 9th inning. But, following the O's game on my phone, and kind of like you were saying, it was 3-2. And then suddenly it was 5-3. And then we're back at his house, and I got the game up on the Masson app. We're playing MLB The Show. And the 6th inning just goes absolutely awry. Mm-hmm. And you got, a chopper bouncing off Mountcastle's glove, and then Gunnar makes an incredible diving play, but then forgets what to do with the ball and tries to tag the guy out and misses, and then looks to second, and then nope, no play there. And then he tries to flip it to third and doesn't get the out, and everybody's safe. And I was like, all right, we're down 9-3, I think, at this point. I closed the computer. I was like, this is going to get ugly. And then it got uglier. And next thing I knew, I had 3 more MLB at-bat notifications. It was 14-3. Mm-hmm. So then, Gunnar homers, like you said, and it's like, all right, whatever. Gunnar's, I have a bet on Gunnar to lead the league in homers that I placed before the season. So only Aaron Judge is in the way right now. But it's cool to see Gunnar homer and then Mateo homers. And then I went out to leave, and I get in my car. I turn on the radio, and Brett and Jeff are on the air saying, well, they're making a pitching change. Suddenly it's 14-8, and we might have a little interesting game. And then a couple more base knocks. Santander hits his 11th June home run, 20th on the season, out of nowhere. And look, this team has been doing it for a couple years now. It seems like in the Adley Rutschman era, we've, fallen behind a lot and fought to come back. That was kind of the story of the 2023 team. This year has been more so, getting ahead of the game and staying ahead. But look, these guys love playing baseball. They're young. They're full of energy. And to make that game interesting in what was an absolute laugher was a lot of fun to see. Yeah,
it was it gave us reason to not turn the game off, right? Like for me, like if I had been at home, probably would have changed the channel, checked back in a couple times to see if the Orioles maybe scored a few runs. Yeah. But probably would have changed the channel because I was at the restaurant and I look like the TV's on the entire time with the game on. They're not going to change that. So right. I keep looking up and I'm watching every bit of this comeback happen. And it was awesome. You got excited and it made you not mad at the loss.
Right.
Because every team gets their junk kicked in at some point or another throughout the season. It really hasn't happened. I mean, they lost a game 8-3 in May, but aside from that, a blowout loss has not really happened to the Orioles since April.
Right.
You look at those 2 games, those back-to-back games where they gave up 11 runs each against the Brewers. Really, and I think they lost the game 9-1 or 9-2 to the Red Sox. But aside from, or not to the Red Sox, they lost, I think, 9-4 to the Royals. But aside from that, this team hasn't really gotten blown out this year. They haven't had those games. They're giving up double-digit runs. So, like, that's going to happen. And you put in the notes here, and I'll let you take over since you did this part of the notes. Grayson Rodriguez, there were times where he got 15 whiffs last night. He struck out 8 batters, but he also gave up 7 runs. Talk a little bit about Grayson Rodriguez yesterday.
Yeah, he showed times when he looked like he was dialed in. He struck out the side around a single in, I believe, the 4th inning. Struck out 8 in 5 innings, which, on the surface, if you don't look at any of the other numbers, 8 strikeouts in 5 innings is pretty darn good. That 3-run homer to Jake Myers, it was a first pitch curveball. McCann was set up away. It ended up catching the inside corner. Not a bad miss. That's not a spot you get hurt a ton, but
especially first pitch.
What's that?
Especially on a first pitch curveball.
Right. A first pitch curveball that just caught the inside corner, but Myers turned on it. He was ready and just hit a rocket over the Crawford boxes. And then, he allowed the first 2 batters to reach base in the 6th before he was yanked. And, one of those was the chopper that hit off Mountcastle's glove. And I don't necessarily think it's a play that should have been made because it was a tough chopper that was just out of his reach. But Mountcastle will probably tell you he could have made that play and probably should have made that play. Instead, it's a double. Run gets to third. More sloppy defense. The run comes around to score. The ball got away from the second base, from Gunnar covering second. I don't know. It was a weird play. But then, Jacob Webb comes in to try to clean up Grayson's mess, and he allows 2 doubles and 2 walks of his own without retiring a batter. And then they have to turn to Dylan Tate. And then he allows 3 runs of his own. So, and granted, he got out of the inning, but, by the time it was all said and done and the dust settled, that's a 9-run 6th inning, and it's hard to come back from that. But then the Orioles come back out and put up a 7-run inning and make it a little bit interesting. And Paul, all in all, it was a top to bottom performance from the offense. All 9 starters reached base safely at least once. McCann was the only one that didn't do it via a hit, but he did walk. 8 guys had hits. 8 of them scored runs. Gunnar, Cedric, and Ryan O'Hearn all stole bases. That's not something you see every day. I mean, obviously we're used to it with Gunnar and Mullins, but Ryan O'Hearn, I think, is 3rd steal of the season. And in their last 3 games, Paul, the Orioles offense has put up 35 runs on 48 hits in 28 innings of offensive baseball. They had one 10-inning game. 35 runs in 28 innings is an absurd run for this offense. And like you said it a few minutes ago, we're used to seeing this, and then the next day you think they got it all out of their system the night before and they only score a couple. They've been firing on all cylinders recently, and you hope that's something that continues to carry over. And this was actually your note, so I'll let you get into more of it. But they're averaging over 6 runs a game since they got swept in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So
we look at this team, and Gunnar is absolutely locked in right now. Like, there was a point last year, he struggled the first couple months of the season, but then there was a point where Gunnar got locked in, and he was a completely different player the rest of the season. He's been really, really good this year, like a top 5 player in baseball to this point of the season. But he has taken his game to an even higher level over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What Gunnar Henderson is doing right now, he's on pace to set the franchise record for WAR in a season. He's on pace to potentially have the highest WAR by any player in the history of the game at shortstop. You have Cal, who had 11.5 in 1991, and Honus Wagner, who had 12.1 in like 1908 or whenever the hell that was. And Gunnar's on pace to put up something in between those 2 numbers, what he's doing right now. The defense has been phenomenal. He's got 12 steals without being caught. He's got 24 home runs after his 2 homer game last. He's on pace to drive in over 100. The season that he's having is absolutely bananas. And then he's got Adley just putting up 5-hit games behind him. Adley has gotten on base. He has 8 hits and 2 walks in his last 2 games. He's gotten on base 10 times his last 2 games. Like, it's bananas how good these 2 are at the top of the order. And then, oh, by the way, Anthony Santander is leading the majors in home runs in the month of June with 11, and they've got 8 days left in the month. Like,
it's absurd.
What this team is capable of offensively. And if you'll notice, like, I haven't not been negative because of, like, I just got tired of the responses and the reactions on Twitter. This team is playing the level of baseball that I've thought they were capable of all season. I have nothing to complain about. Even with a loss last night, even with a 14-11 loss last night, this team is playing at a level that other teams can't touch. They're realizing their potential, and I think it started with that sweep in St. Louis. They got embarrassed against a bad team in St. Louis, And right after they lost that game, and the way that they lost that game with Cedric getting doubled off of first base, the way they lost that game, I think they were like, we ain't letting this happen again. And I even said, I was like, they're going to sweep the White Sox. Since that loss in St. Louis, since that sweep, they've gone 20-8. They haven't lost a series. They've completed 2 4-game sweeps. They've lost 2 games in a row just twice and not more than that. They've averaged 6.14 runs per game, and they've allowed 3.64 runs per game. Now, that's going into last night. So those numbers are a little...
No, I updated that after the game.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So they're you did, because it was 5.96.
Right.
Yeah. So they're averaging over 6 runs a game. They're giving up less than 4 runs a game. And you put this note in. If an Oriole hits a home run today, they'll set the franchise record with 21 consecutive games with at least 1 home run, which is absurd, but it's not even the most absurd thing that they've done. They have not lost a series against the American League East since April of 2023. They've gone since divisional play began in 1969, no team has done what the Orioles have done by picking up that victory on Thursday against the Yankees. The Orioles have gone 22 consecutive series without a series loss.
And they've won 16 of those series.
No, they've won 17.
Have they? I thought it was 16-0-6, but I could be wrong.
I thought they were 17-0-5. Or was that before they split with the Blue Jays?
Either way.
Have been, yeah, I think it was before they split with the Blue Jays. 16-0-6 in their last 22 series against the AL East.
Incredible.
Fans, analysts, pundits alike said, the Orioles could get off to a really hot start, but then June's going to come where they have 1 day off the entire month, 43 games in 45 days, and they're playing a gauntlet of playoff teams, including every team in the American League East. They're 13-7 in June. Haven't lost a series. They've taken a series from Atlanta, Philadelphia, and the New York Yankees. And this is all while losing 3 starters to elbow injury, Dean Kramer to a tricep strain, and Danny Coulombe to bone chips. Imagine if John Means and Kyle Bradish were still in this rotation, and Tyler Wells and Danny Coulombe were pitching out of the back end of this bullpen. They might have 70 wins. Like, it is bananas to think how good this team is right now and what they don't have. It's ridiculous. And you're going to get into this in your sounding off. I'm not going to steal too much thunder from you, but a Phillies fan last night says to me, I'm talking about how the Orioles are the best team in baseball. And I have a couple of tweets that got like a lot of traction on the last couple of days. But one of them was, I kept hearing all the Orioles broadcasters say during that Yankee series, the Orioles are playing the best team in baseball. And I kept screaming at the radio, or not screaming, but sternly stating they're not playing themselves. The Orioles are the best team in baseball. We need to start calling them that. I don't care that the Yankees have 2 more wins. They also have 1 more loss. I don't care about that. These teams that are supposedly better than the Orioles, they beat up on everybody. They come to play Baltimore, they lose. They lose. Atlanta, they're what, on a 4 or 5 game winning streak since the Orioles took 2 I think a 5 game winning streak since the Orioles took 2 or 3 from them.
I think so. Yeah.
The Phillies, they have the best record in the National League. Orioles took 2 or 3 from them, with Bradish needing to have his arm chopped off after 5 innings of game 1, and they won the first game. The Yankees had the best team in baseball. The Orioles kicked their butts, and they could have very easily won the first game of the series. They've taken 5 of 7 games from the Yankees. I don't care who you think your team is. I don't care how good you think they are. They're not better than the Baltimore Orioles. They come to play Baltimore, they lose. It's just what happens. So get ready for it. You're going to play Baltimore, you're going to lose. It's just what happens.
And it's absolutely true that the Orioles' June schedule was a gauntlet. There are a lot of really good teams on that schedule. However, what we need to understand, and what the rest of baseball needs to realize at this point, these aren't the Orioles of old. This is the best team in baseball. And we have this because of, I think, so much losing, we kind of have this inferiority complex
Mm-hmm.
where, we look at a schedule featuring the Yankees and the Phillies and the Braves and the Astros, and we got 4 coming up against the Texas Rangers and the 3 coming up against the AL Central leading Cleveland Guardians. We see those games on the schedule and it's like, all right, this is going to be a test. But the factor that a lot of us, I think, are not considering is those teams see the Orioles on their schedule and say, oh crap, we have to face them.
Mm-hmm.
Times have changed and the
Oh,
Orioles are here to stay. And no matter who is on our schedule, even if it is a run of really good teams, they also have to face us.
yep.
So it's incredible how the Orioles have responded to this. They've won every single series in June against those difficult teams. What more can you say? It's been awesome.
It was when they played so they had just gone through the 4 straight series against the AL East, and I believe they took 2 or 3 from Boston. They took 2 or 3 from Tampa Bay. They split with Toronto, and then they swept Tampa Bay. So what is that? That's 2, 4, 6, 10. What did they go, like 10-4? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, they went 10-4. They went 10-4 in those 14 games against, because they had 3 3-game series or 2 4-game series. Yeah, they went 10-4 in those 14 games. There's 2 3-game series where they went 2-1 in each of those. Then they split with the Blue Jays in the 4 games and they swept 4 games. So then they go to play Atlanta. They've gone 10-4 against their division in the last 14 days. And they take 2 or 3 from Atlanta. And I sat there and I posted it. I said, I don't care who they're facing. This is the best team in baseball. And I'm tired of acting like, I was like, I get it. We're Orioles fans. We've been burned by bad baseball teams the majority of our lives. And so that's what we're used to. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm beating my chest like a big king silverback gorilla going into every series saying, we're the best team in baseball. It's not up to us to beat you. It's up to you to beat us because we're better than you. And
Exactly.
I say weird because I'm not on the team, but this is my team.
Who
I
cares?
love the team.
Dude,
Yeah.
people who act like saying we when you're referencing your favorite sports team is some kind of like, you're not allowed to do that because you're not on the team. Dude, go somewhere else. Take a hike. Try to keep it clean, but like, get lost.
This team they're the best team in baseball with the injuries. They're going to go out and add players to this roster to make them better. They're winning the World Series. I'm saying it right now. The Orioles are going to, and they're winning the World Series. This is the best team in baseball. This is the best team I've ever seen in Baltimore, and I'm tired of acting like they're not. They are. They are. You're not gonna sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and act like this team isn't what they are, and what they are is the best team in baseball. Speaking of which,
fire me up, Paul.
We can go place bets if we want them to be the best team in baseball. If we believe that they are, and we want them to win the World Series, I'd be willing to bet on it, unless I had a gambling problem. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. If you're betting on like which hat Ryan's going to wear on the next bat around, you might need to call helpmygamblingproblem.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. I'm too fired up to read ads right now. They lost. They gave up 14 runs last night, and I'm still just fired up because his team almost came back and won that game.
Where did a thumbs up just appear next to my head, or was that on my end?
It did. They've upgraded Restream since last week. I've noticed there's been some upgrades. The only problem is I had to guess where the chat box was because there's this need help thing down here, and it's covering the chat box, and I can't see it.
Oh, fun. Good stuff.
So what time did I do that? That was 10:23. Let's get into these Orioles injuries because as good as they are, they do have some injuries. And one of the reasons that people were nervous about going to New York was because of who the Orioles had starting. They had Albert Suarez, who's a 34-year-old journeyman who's been giving up a lot of traffic recently. And then they had Cade Povich, who is a rookie. He's got a lot of talent, but his stuff moves so much, as Chris Resetar said, that he's going to walk a lot of guys. He walked 5 in that start, only gave up 1 hit. We don't have to get into how I felt about him being pulled then. And then the next start is Cole Irvin, who's been really good this year, but his last few starts he's been middling at best, right? So you're sitting there and you're like, these are the Orioles' 3 worst starters on their roster. who are going against the Yankees. This could be tough. They won the series anyway, but the Orioles need some help. They do need some help. You look at Kyle Bradish. He had successful Tommy John surgery this past week. He's out for the next 12 to 18 months. If this surprised you, man, I wish I had your eternal optimism. When he came out of that game complaining of elbow soreness, you knew what was going down. You knew it was Tommy John surgery. So it kind of blew my mind when people were like all like shocked and surprised when it was announced he had Tommy John surgery. If you didn't know that was coming, what were you doing?
Yeah. And not just based on that start and his comments afterwards, but the fact that he, missed the first 2 months, including the spring.
Right.
Like
exactly.
Yeah. We've
all
been
of
waiting
that
all
combined.
season for his elbow to explode, and sure enough, it happened.
Exactly. Danny Coulombe had bone chips removed from his throwing elbow. He's out till September at the earliest. They're saying we hope he's back to full strength by September. If they get Danny Coulombe back in September, that's awesome for the playoffs, right? That's awesome. But they got to get him back first, right? Dean Kramer, he has the tricep strain. He makes another rehab start today. Mike Elias says he's expected to throw about 75 pitches. He threw 59 this past Sunday, 3 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 5 runs, 2 earned, 1 walk, 3 Ks. Norfolk's pitching staff and their defense are pretty awful.
Yeah.
Like they mash the baseball. That's why they're above 500, but they cannot pitch. Every time I get an update, because I have the minor league app on my phone, every time I get an update from Norfolk, it's like, so-and-so from Lehigh Valley hits a 3-run homer. Lehigh leads 7-1 in the second. And I'm like, this happens like 4 days out of the week.
Yeah.
With regards to the Tides, their pitching is terrible.
So they had a 7-game win streak earlier in the season in which they were allowing like 6 runs a game, but they were scoring like 12. So it was just.
Oh yeah, they started the year 7-1 because they were scoring 12. I think they were averaging 13 runs a game, and they were giving up like 7. It was at the beginning of the season, and then they lost 10 in a row. And those 10 in a row were with the last 9 of which Jackson Holiday got called up, and that's when they lost 9 straight.
Yep.
But anyway, so all this is to say the Orioles are missing John Means, Tyler Wells, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kramer, Danny Coulombe, and Felix Bautista, right? They need help. You can't afford another injury to this rotation. We're going to knock on wood. We hope that that's not the case. I'm not going to sit here and have a knee-jerk reaction to Grayson giving up 7 runs yesterday.
No.
Okay? That's going to happen every now and again. The fact is, in 10 of his 13 starts this year, Grayson's given up 2 earned runs or less.
Yeah.
In those 10 starts, he's thrown exactly 60 innings. So it's 6 innings to start. And he has a 2.10 ERA. Somebody tried to say, Grayson's been good, but he's not the number 1 or number 2 that we hoped he was going to be. Last time was his 36th career start. 36th. Which means technically he's like in the early stages of his second full big league season. Right? It was his 36th career start. 2, a 2.10 ERA in 10 of those 13 starts. That's a number 1, number 2 type pitcher. Corbin Burns is your ace. His ERA is 2.14. That's ace type stuff. Okay.
And not to cut you off, but before that, blow up last night where he gave up 7 runs in 5 innings, he had all-star numbers coming into that start.
Mm-hmm.
He was 8-2 with I think like a 312 or something coming in, and it ballooned up to 380 something. But he looks like an all-star. And I even said before the game to my buddy who I was with, I said the only thing that might keep Grayson out of the all-star game at this point is the Orioles having too many representatives already, and other teams needing a guy to go in there.
If Grayson goes out yesterday and gives them 6 1/3 innings of 2-run ball, drops that ERA to like 3.08, and wins his 9th game, and he's 9-2, Grayson Rodriguez is an all-star. He's got probably 3 more starts till the all-star game. Maybe 4 starts before the all-star game, to get back into contention. I mean, he could have 10, 11 wins at the break. Yeah. He's 100% deserving of being an all-star. Somebody was like, it's the same guy who – not a lot of people tweet me stuff like this. They think that because I've had some negative stuff that I want to hear all the negative stuff all the time. My stuff's realistic. Theirs is very, very pessimistic. Yeah. And I don't mind it because, misery loves company. I understand that. And some of their points I get. I don't agree with all of it. But this guy in particular was very upset about the Julio Teheran re-signing like Michael Elias did that to help the big league ball club. Like that was his big move. And then he tried to tell me Grayson hasn't been good. We got to talk about this. His ERA is approaching 4. Yeah, because he's had 3 blow-up starts and he's had 10 amazing starts. I'm good with a guy who's going to give me 10 out of 13 starts are 2 earned runs or less.
Yeah. If he has one start a month where he doesn't have it, but who cares?
Yeah, I'm good.
He's dialed in the majority of the time he's on the mound.
At the end of the year, when Grayson's ERA is 3.25 and he's got 16, 17 wins, I'm not going to worry about the 7 runs that he gave up to Houston on June 21st. I'm not upset about that. But what it is pointing out right now, the Orioles have 3 starters in the rotation. We just talked about it. You don't really know what you're going to get. And that means Grayson and Corbin have to be at their best every time out. They can't have a misstep, right? And that's not really fair to them. Like Corbin Burns, his worst start, he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings, right? Yeah. And then every other start, it's been 6, 7 innings, usually 2 runs or less. So, like Corbin Burns, his misstep usually, I'm going to knock on wood because it happened to Grayson last night. His misstep is not the same as a Dean Kramer misstep, right? But this team needs to go out and find another starting pitcher to take some of the stress off of their 2 ace starters in Grayson Rodriguez and Corbin Burns, but also to take some of the stress off the bullpen, which, by the way, they need a couple of bullpen arms too. Because if you're only getting 4 2/3 out of Albert Suarez and 4 2/3 out of Cade Povich and 4 2/3 out of Cole Irvin, which is what all 3 of those guys did, no starter went 5 innings in that Yankee series. Mm-hmm. If that's all you're getting, that bullpen's going to be taxed. So, of course, the bullpen comes in and gives up 7 runs yesterday. Like they're going to be taxed.
Yeah.
You need somebody to take that burden off the bullpen, take that burden off of Corbin and Grayson to have to be damn near perfect every time out. Dean Kramer's coming back, but he's not that dude. He's a quality 4, a decent number 3. His last 2 starts, he gave up 11 runs, 8 earned with 7 walks and 10 hits, covering 9 2/3 innings before going on the IL. We don't know how much of that was due to the triceps strain, but Dean Kramer, he's been a good pitcher over the last 2.5 years. He hasn't been great. You need somebody great to put this team over the top. You're talking about the World Series now. We're not talking about getting to October. They're going to get there. Right. We're talking about this team needs to be something to put them over the top. I wasn't able to get to all the names I wanted to, but there's been 3 names that have been mentioned the most that I want to talk about. First and foremost, Jesus Luzardo and Tanner Scott in a trade package. The Marlins are only a half game better than the Rockies for the worst. For the worst record in the National League. They're reportedly looking to move early and quickly regarding making trades with some of these players. The Orioles reportedly have interest in Tanner Scott, according to MLB trade rumors. They need a solid lefty reliever to fill the shoes of Danny Coulombe while he's out. And, of course, they need a young, controllable starter. So let's look at the good of this, Ryan. Jesus Luzardo is still just 26 years old. He's coming off back-to-back solid seasons under team control through 2026, and he's allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in 9 of 12 starts. Tanner Scott posted a 2.31 ERA with 12 saves last year, career low 2.8 walks per 9, which when I saw that, I did a triple take. And this year, he has a 1.69 ERA with 8 saves, posting the lowest hits per 9 of his career, and he leads the team in B-WAR at 2. So here's the bad. Luzardo has an ERA of 5 even, because when he blows up, he blows up. His 3 bad starts, 5 runs, 7 runs, 9 runs. His Ks per 9 is a career worst 7.8. He had to miss 2 starts with a flexor mass strain in his left elbow, his throwing elbow, earlier this year, which we've already had enough elbow injuries in this rotation and bullpen. Tanner Scott, his walks per 9 are back up over 6 at 6.2, and his 9.6 Ks per 9 is the lowest of his career. Orioles go out, they make a trade for Jesus Luzardo and Tanner Scott. What's your reaction?
Depends on what we give up. That's always going to be the wild card when answering a question like that. It's interesting that here we are in 2024, talking about how Tanner Scott would be a good acquisition for the Orioles. And it's true. Yeah, he's been a good closer for that team. Luzardo, look, I'm a Jesus Luzardo fantasy owner. I get the frustration with him this year. He was really, really good in 2023. He had that breakout year that we've been waiting for from him. Regressed a bit this year, like you said, when he has a bad start, it's a bad start. But he's also going to have starts every once in a while where he gives you 6 1/3 innings, 2 hits, no runs, and strikes out 11 or 12. That's just the kind of pitcher he is. And I think you can kind of live with that if you're a contending team, especially a team with an offense as high-powered as the Orioles is. We talked about them averaging, over 6 runs a game over the last calendar month. So you can afford to have a guy go 5 innings, give up 4 runs if your offensive output is going to be superior, right? But on a surface level, an acquisition of a trade package of Luzardo and Tanner Scott, I think, would be very beneficial for this team. You got to think about a playoff series, right? You're going to have Corbin Burnes, you're going to have Grayson Rodriguez, and that's assuming they both stay healthy for the remainder of the season. And then who's starting game 3 for you? Is it Dean Kramer? Is it Albert Suarez? Is he still on a stroke of luck? Is it Cole Irvin? I'm not confident with any of those guys going into game 3 of a playoff series. And last year it was Dean Kramer, and we saw how that turned out. Granted, he was pitching with, the weight of the world on his shoulders with what was going on in his home country. But dude, I think you got to have someone with a little more upside than that as your number 3 in the playoffs. So whether it's Luzardo or whether it's, one of these White Sox you're going to talk about, they need someone, and they need someone who they're going to be able to have confidence in going into a playoff series.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Like, you need another guy, and that leads us into Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet, the good White Sox have the worst record in baseball, so they're going to be making moves. Crochet is young, under team control through 2026, leads the majors in starts and strikeouts, and has a career 3.01 ERA in 88 games. The bad is that he's likely going to have to move to the bullpen, as he's already surpassed his career high for innings pitched by more than 30 innings, which is fine because he's shown to be a dominant reliever in his career. But then you still have that hole in your rotation that we were just talking about. And people can say, you don't need 3 good starters for the playoffs. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, you do, especially in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe in a 5-game series or the division series, you can get away with having 2 good starters. You get to the ALCS, you get to the World Series, you need 3 legitimate starters. You can't go out there with Corbin Burnes, Grayson Rodriguez, and then at this point, Cole Irvin. And like, maybe you can, because those Corbin and Grayson will likely get 2 starts each in a 3-game series. But I mean, in a 7-game series, but then you're still like, worst case scenario with that, you got to go to a game 7.
Yeah.
I like Garrett Crochet. I would love to have him. Like if the Orioles traded for him, I'd be jumping up and down, right? But he's not going to make it through the season in a rotation with where his innings. He's 30 innings, more than 30 innings above his career high in innings pitched already, and he's going to move to the bullpen. I'll be happy about it, but I'll be like, okay, now they need somebody else still.
Yeah, you're not trading for Crochet to be a starter. At least not this year. Next year, sure. But he's thrown a ton of innings this year. He has a history of arm issues. I believe he's already had Tommy John surgery. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he has.
I think he did that. I think that he did after getting. I think in 2022 he had it.
Okay. Yeah. Look, and I want to play devil's advocate here, and then I'm gonna kind of contradict myself. But 2014, the Orioles went into the ALDS against the Texas Rangers, and all the talk was that the Rangers have a Cy Young winner from each of the last 3 seasons, right? In David Price, Max Scherzer, and Justin Verlander. They had won in 2011, 2012, and 2013 in their respective leagues. The Orioles in that series put out Chris Tillman, Wei-Yin Chen, and Bud Norris. Not exactly a pitching matchup in favor of the Orioles.
All those guys.
However, like I said, I was going to contradict myself, right? That doesn't mean that the Orioles don't need a third. Like, you still want to go into that series with the odds on your side, right? The odds were not on the Orioles side, and they found a way to win in 2014. That's not to say you don't need the odds on your side in the pitching matchups going into a playoff series. You absolutely do.
To be fair to that Orioles team, though, that rotation was really good. Tillman was 13-6 with a 3.34 ERA. Chen was 16-6 with a 3.54 ERA, and Bud Norris was 15-8 with a 3.65 ERA.
I didn't realize they were all that good.
Yeah, they were, and then Miguel Gonzalez was 10-9 with a 3.23. Kevin Gausman 7-7 with a 3.57. The worst starter was the highest paid one. It was Ubaldo Jimenez 6-9 with a 4.81. That rotation's ERA for the season was. I remember it because I shouted it from rooftops when I heard people talking trash about the Orioles pitching on the radio. 361 from that starting rotation for the season. Like they were really, really good.
That's true.
But they weren't the names of David Price, Justin Verlander, and Max Scherzer.
Right.
So
they weren't Cy Young good.
They weren't Cy Young good. They were number 2, number 3 good. Like they were some of the best pitchers in the league, but they weren't aces.
Right.
The Tigers had 3 aces. So your point still stands. It's not like they were going there with 4.02 ERAs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I would love to have Crochet, but I don't think that you can get Crochet and think that's our move. You've got to make more. You've got to make more moves. That brings us to Eric Fetty. Also with the White Sox, and actually having a better year than Crochet. Having a career year, 3.05 ERA, 3.7 WAR. Given his career WAR, including a 3.7, is 3.5. It shows you how amazing this year it has been for him. And I believe he won 20 games pitching in the KBO last year.
I don't know if
or the MPL.
I think he was in Japan.
Yeah, he was in Japan. That's right. He was in Japan, but he won 20 games last year.
Yeah.
And so it's not like he hasn't had success. He's never had success in the majors. He's literally never done this. It's his 7th big league season. His career ERA coming into this year, 102 games, 88 starts, was 5.41. So can you trust him to maintain this? And if he does, you expect him to stick in the rotation for you. You still need to go get another reliever. You still need some back-end bullpen help. Like the Orioles can't just make one move for a starting pitcher and then think we're good now, because you're not. You need a guy. I like Craig Kimbrell. Like he's blown all 4 one-run saves that he's had, save opportunities he's had this year. You need to have somebody that can lock down that 9th inning. You've heard a lot of people talk about Hunter Harvey and Kyle Finnegan from the Nationals. And Kyle Finnegan is having an amazing year. He's got like a 1.69 ERA with 21 saves. Hunter Harvey's got a 2.68 ERA. He's done nothing but post 2.5 ERA since going to the Nationals from Baltimore. The problem is the Nationals are 37-38, which isn't great, but that record has them a half game back of a wild card spot, right? And then you look at their schedule. They've got 2 more with Colorado, 3 with the very underwhelming San Diego Padres, 3. Now all these games are on the road though. 3 in Tampa Bay. Then they come home to play the Mets, the Cardinals, the Mets. Their next game against a team above 500, because I think aren't the Padres under 500?
I think they are, yeah.
I'm gonna double check here. They're 40-40. They're 40-40. Their next series against a team above 500, as it currently stands, isn't until July 12th. The last series before the All-Star break, when they play the Milwaukee Brewers. And then then after that, they go back and they play Cincinnati, San Diego, St. Louis, Arizona. Like, they're not trading those guys because they're going to be in the thick of the wild card race through the trade deadline. They're going to be in the thick of the wild card race through the trade deadline. They're not trading Hunter Harvey and Kyle Finnegan because they think they can make the playoffs this year. And honestly, I think they can too. Their schedule is like, if the Orioles had this schedule, I'd say they were going to win 115 games this year.
Yeah.
If the Orioles had this schedule. It's ridiculous how bad the National League is.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And this new playoff format has very mediocre teams thinking they're still in it at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? It's so hard to say. Like, you can't look at anybody, unless it's a team like the White Sox that are, 30, 40 games under 500, whatever they are at this point. Unless it's a team like that, or the Rockies or the Marlins, like, all these teams kind of feel like they still have a shot.
The San Francisco Giants have the third worst record in the National League at 36-40.
So they're what?
They're
2.5
2
out
games
of a playoff
back.
spot?
They're 2 games back of a playoff spot.
Yeah,
Your three wild card teams, the Braves, 42-31. They could, lose half their games the rest of the way, and they're still going to make the playoffs. Your other 2 wild card teams, San Diego, 40-40. Arizona, 38-38. St. Louis, 37-37. You have 3 teams that are 500 that are in a wild card position, and then you have 2 other teams that are below 500 within a game. The National League is so freaking bad. It's not even mediocre. They're bad.
And the American League's not quite that bad. There's a bunch of teams that are, 2, 3, 4 games under 500. There are a few games out because the top teams in the wild card race are a little bit better than those in the National League. But you look across baseball, there are 5 teams out of 30 in Major League Baseball right now that are more than 5.5 games out of a playoff spot as of right this second. So there's 5 teams that you can confidently say are going to be sellers. The rest of it, you have no idea.
Now, 2 of those teams are the White Sox and the Marlins, who the Orioles could stand to get a lot from. And the Orioles the Orioles might have to overpay. I don't see Mike Elias overpaying. I don't think he's nuking this farm system to get the team to win a World Series this year. I think he's thinking long term. He's going to make moves. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how good of a salesman is he, because he's going to have to sell these guys. Some of these guys are better than he actually believes that they are, that he'd be giving up. So it's going to have to be quite the sales job from Mike Elias. All right, if you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Kyle Van Noy, AJ Pierzynski, Mariners first baseman Abingdon native Tyler Locklear, Olympic women's basketball team member and Maryland legend Alyssa Thomas, and more, you can find it all in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature today at PressBoxOnline.com. All right, Ryan, soft toss. What you got for us today?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep this short. Number one, because I'm getting low on time, and number two, because if I rant too hard about Yankee fans' lack of baseball knowledge and how much they all showed their asses on social media this week, I might end up yelling or cursing. So I'm gonna try to avoid that. So I'm kind of talking to Yankee fans here, to all the probably 0 that tune into this show, but I have to get it off my chest. If you have any understanding at all of baseball in general and the situations in which these events happened, you would know that Albert Suarez was clearly not trying to hit Aaron Judge on a 1-2 pitch. You would know that Keegan Aiken clearly was not trying to hit Gleyber Torres on an 0-1 pitch. But you don't care because you're arrogant and you are stupid. And then later in the game, you cheer when Gunnar Henderson gets knocked down by a pitch up and in because you believe in some kind of BS retaliation unwritten rule. And then you cheer again the next day when he actually does get plunked. By the way, he came around, he stole second base, came around and scored, and the Yankees would have walked it off in the bottom of the 9th had that Orioles run not scored. And then they ended up losing by 1 run. So thanks for the free run, you absolute morons. And what a wonderful feeling to pummel you into oblivion in your own stadium, and in the process set the Major League Baseball divisional era record for the most consecutive unbeaten series within your division. And it felt even sweeter after the classless response that we got from fans and players in the Yankees organization after a couple of accidental hit by pitches. I'm going to try to leave it at that. Get over yourselves, learn ball. I don't know. It was just an absolute mess on social media this week. And what a wonderful feeling for the Orioles to come out on top and an absolute laugher on Thursday afternoon.
And against Luis Gil, who had the lowest ERA in the American League going into that game. The Orioles scored 7 runs in an inning and a third off of him.
To help Corbin Burns' case to maybe start the All-Star game.
Yep. I mean, they absolutely destroyed him literally 4 days after They absolutely destroyed Zach Wheeler. Like, throw your best at him, and they're just gonna knock him down. It's been unbelievable, and I'll do it for you a little bit, because Judge gets hit in the hand. It hit him right here. All right, this is the meaty part of your hand. As soon as he got hit, first of all, that 12 steps out towards the mound,
Yeah,
to try and be intimidating, but never actually looked at the pitcher, like you're a P word, okay? 2, nobody gives a crap about Gleyber Torres. Like, nobody on this Orioles team is like, oh, I'm going to hit Gleyber Torres. That'll show him. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about you outside of New York. The Orioles don't give a crap about the Yankees. They don't give a crap about anybody. They care about winning baseball games. That's all they care about. So the Yankees, they're scared. The Yankees fans are scared of the Orioles. They are.
Terrified.
They're trying to make up this rivalry. For us as fans, yes, there's a rivalry. We hate the Yankees. We want to beat them, right? But for the Orioles franchise, for the players on that roster, they don't care what uniform is on the other side of the diamond from them. All they care about is winning baseball games. That's it. And they've proven that time and time again. We want to make up this crazy, the Orioles we don't like that the Orioles pitch inside. That's just like, that's how they like to do it. And I think they hit our players intentionally. The Orioles are like second fewest hit batters in baseball. They're like third lowest percentage of inside pitches in baseball. I don't know if you know this number off the top of your head, Ryan. In the 7 games that the Orioles play against the Yankees this year, how many hit batters have the Yankees hit?
I think it's 9.
9. Right? Yeah. They've hit 9 Orioles batters in 7 games. 5 in that first series.
Yeah.
The Orioles, I think, have hit 3. They've hit 3.
They hit, I think, 1 in the 4-game series and then 2 more on Tuesday night.
Yep. They've hit 3. Yeah. Okay. And the very first hit batter of the entire season series was Gunnar Henderson in the 7th inning of the first game by Caleb Ferguson in the Yankees bullpen. Guess where? In the hand. In the hand.
And guess what he did? He walked down to first base.
Yep. And if you don't think he knows that you intentionally hit him in that game on Wednesday night, and you don't think that Colton Cowser knows you intentionally hit him in that game, it was clear as day. It was clear as day.
I don't know about the Cowser one. Gunnar, I think, was intentional. Cowser, I'm not sure. But
I think
that was.
Yeah, I think Cowser was intentional. I think he was intentional.
But what did Cowser do to deserve that? Was it just, I want to hit a guy?
Yeah, the way that he threw that pitch, it wasn't even competitive. It was directly thrown at him. It didn't look like it came off his hand weird. It was direct. I thought it was intentional. But that's just me. We do have to pick up the pace here a little bit. I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by the new Press Box print issue. The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Maryland Governor Wes Moore sits down with Press Box to discuss the sports topics significant to his administration, including the stadium and grounds lease for the Orioles, the future of horse racing in the state, and much more. Also, this is our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities throughout the state you and your family can take advantage of this summer. You can find the new Press Box edition all throughout the region, including at 60 Royal Farm stores, and read it all starting Monday at PressBoxOnline.com. I'm going to try and fly through this here AL East wrap-up. The Orioles broke the Yankees. Carlos Rodon got tagged for a trio of homers and 8 runs in total, while the Yanks' only extra base hit came off the bat of Jahmai Jones. Juan Soto and Aaron Judge went 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts, while Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, and Matt Olson went deep, and Carlos Rodon was seen crying in the dugout during that game. The Red Sox and the Red Stockings swapped solo homers for 5 consecutive half innings, but it was TJ Friedl bunt that played 2 runs late and 10 strikeouts from Andrew Abbott that led Cincinnati to the 5-2 victory, snapping Boston's 5-game winning streak. The Guardians and Blue Jays scored in just 1 inning apiece. The problem for Toronto is that Cleveland scored 7 times in their inning, and the Blue Jays scored 1 in theirs as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit a solo shot. That was all the Jays could muster in this one as Carlos Carrasco delivered a quality start, stopping the Blue Jays 7-1. And finally, the Rays were the only AL East team to come out of Friday with a victory as they received offensive production from top to bottom, highlighted by a pair of Josh Lowe home runs. Ryan Pepio couldn't make it out of the 4th inning, but the Rays bullpen held the Pirates to just a meaningless 8th inning solo homer, taking down the Buccos 10-3. For today, I ad-libbed a little bit in there because
That's okay.
I confused myself a little. Corbin Burns takes the mound for Game 2 in today's game in Houston this afternoon with a first pitch scheduled for 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Burns will be seeking his 11th consecutive quality start. He is 8-2 on the season with an AL best 2.14 ERA. The Astros will counter with Ronel Blanco. Blanco is 7-2 with a 2.43 ERA and 0.97 WHIP. A surprise story this year, to say the least, as Blanco opened the season with a no-hitter, and his most recent start on Sunday, he went 7 no-hit innings again. Orioles lineup, I didn't get a chance to take a guess at this. I'm going to go with what you said, Ryan. I'll let you give your lineup and your take as to why.
Yeah, dude, I have no idea on any given day what the outfield is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. And it's especially weirder now because left field in Houston is like, it's incredibly shallow, and then it's like really deep in the gap. They had Ryan O'Hearn out there last night, which surprised me. Anyway, I've got Gunnar at short, Adley behind the plate because he DH'd yesterday. I think Santander gets bumped up to third. That might be a little bold because he's been thriving in the 5-hole, but I got Santander hitting third, out in left. Mountcastle at first base, O'Hearn DHing against the righty, Jordan Westberg at second, Cedric Mullins in center field batting 7th, Ramon Arias at third base batting 8th, and Colton Cowser in right field batting 9th. I think you can make a case that Austin Hayes should be starting. I think you can make a case that Jorge Mateo should be starting. That's what I threw out there. We'll see what happens. But it's a good problem to have when finally Cedric Mullins and Austin Hayes look like they're kind of reverting back to their normal forms to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got obviously the June production from Santander. Ryan O'Hearn, you can't bench against righties. Colton Cowser, his whole family's there to see him in Houston, which is why I threw him in there. I'm not sure he starts today based on the other guys, but it'll be fun.
But he didn't start yesterday.
Right. That's the thing.
You know,
neither did Austin Hayes, and I kept him out of this one.
So but Austin Hayes is hitting like 800 as a pinch hitter this year.
Yeah.
So I get it. One thing you said, took me back to my college days because I was often described as thriving in the 5-hole. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Great show.
Well,
I don't know if I should have said something like that on the show. Oh, well. I hope the 11 of you watching right now didn't take offense to that. I want to remind you today, I agree with your lineup. It's hard to take Mateo out after he homered last night. But Arias has been swinging a hot stick. I don't think Santander moves to the 3-hole. I think they like O'Hearn there. So I think you just flip-flop O'Hearn and Santander, especially with how well Santander's been doing from the 5-hole.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. Today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone and your local Toyota dealer. While high school sports season has come to an end for this year, County Sports Zone will be providing great high school sports content all summer long. For the latest in coaching changes, football previews, and more, check out County Sports Zone, sports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. I have to say, whenever I hear them start talking about like high school football, I get nostalgic for I know everybody hated it when we were if you played football in high school, you hated that your summer was basically over the second week of August because you had 2 weeks of 2-a-days, and then practice was just you were just at football practice the rest of your summer. I loved it. I always dropped 20 pounds and got in really great shape during those 2 weeks. And there was just something about being out there and I'm going to be outside anyway. I might as well be playing football. I get nostalgic for that. Some part of me still misses it 20 some odd years later. We don't need to talk about how long ago it was. But that's just me. What's on? And it's not, guys, I didn't like start I barely got any playing time. I was 5'6", 150 pounds. I played wide receiver and safety. I didn't start, but like I liked being out there. I had friends on the team. It was fun. It was fun. And I was good enough to like, not make an ass out of myself, Anyway, what's on tap? After today's game, the Orioles conclude their series with the Astros tomorrow afternoon with first pitch slated for 2:10 p.m. Eastern. Albert Suarez will take the mound for the Orioles, looking to avoid the traffic that's bit him recently. I think he's allowed like 19 base runners in his last 2 starts, covering 9 innings.
It's been a lot. There's a lot of traffic. He's gotten
lot.
Away with it to an extent, but he needs to limit that for sure.
Absolutely. The Astros will throw Framber Valdez, who's been disappointed this year, but he still has an ERA under 4. Orioles will then return home for a full week of games, 3 versus Cleveland and 4 versus Texas before a much-needed day off to begin July. I can't wait for that Texas series. Cleveland, hopefully they take 2 or 3, but bring in Texas and kick their ass. Please kick their ass.
Please.
That's oh my God, it would be the perfect end to the month to just go in there and take 3 or 4. From Texas. So yeah, let's move into take to rake. Ryan, you took Gunnar, I took Adley. I can't give either one of us a loss here. I can't do it. I can't. Okay, Gunnar.
Here's the thing. You absolutely do not deserve. Look, Adley OPS 1100, and Gunnar OPS 1290.
I think
here's the way I look at it, and you do what you want. I think I deserve the win. I absolutely do not think that you deserve the loss.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. My point is Gunnar goes 11 for 28, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, 10 runs, 3 stolen bases. That's a 393, 469, 821, 1290 slash line. Adley goes 11 for 26, 2 doubles, a home run, 2 RBIs, 6 runs, 0 stolen bases. That's a 423, 484, 615, 1100 slash line. Keep in mind that Adley bets right after Gunnar. So a lot of these Gunnar big hits are kind of taking the RBI production away from Adley unless it's a leadoff home run.
Sure.
Right? So like Adley went 5 for 5 last night, and he batted directly following a Gunnar Henderson home run twice.
Yeah.
Including a 2-run homer. And then Adley doubled. If Gunnar Henderson singles in that at bat, Adley drives in 2 runs there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you do deserve to win. I do not deserve to lose. So we're going to do a tie here, but I'm going to let you pick first.
Okay. I think
is that a fair compromise?
I think that's a fair compromise.
So move this to 3 ties. Ryan and his guestesses have 3 wins. I have 2. There have now been 3 ties. Who you got?
My gut says ride the hot hand. We've got another week of June. Give me Tony Taters.
Tony Taters. I mean, duh. I'm taking Gunnar.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think this is a situation where you see Gunnar suddenly go into like a 1 for 14 slump.
No.
I think Gunnar has reached that level where this is just what he does now. I don't think he's going to hit 393 the rest of the season, but I think you're likely to see multiple home runs a week from him. That wouldn't shock me the rest of the way. Like,
no.
He's going to hit 50 home runs this year. He's that dude. You know,
the only thing in his way from leading the league is Aaron Judge. And like I said, I put a bet on Gunnar before the season started to lead the league in homers, to win, like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I kind of forgot that I placed that bet until Gunnar was like tied with Kyle Tucker with, I think, back when he had 19.
Yeah.
He and Tucker and Judge were all neck and neck. And I was looking at my account. I was like, oh, I've got Gunnar to lead the league. So Judge has been on fire, but like you said, I think Gunnar's good for a couple bombs a week. And man, what a fun race it's going to be if Judge is healthy all season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Orioles haven't had a guy lead the league in homers since Mark Trumbo in 2016. And that was the 4th consecutive year that an Oriole led the league in home runs. It was Davis in 2013 with 53, Cruz in 2014 with 40, Davis in 2015 with 47, and Trumbo in 2016 with 47. 4 straight years and it was a different Oriole each time, unless you count Chris Davis with a year in between.
Right.
Anyway, let's get to some viewer interaction. I know you got to get out of here pretty shortly.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff. What's up, Paul and Ryan? Tom, what's up, man? You like to share it and subscribe. Everybody like, share, and subscribe to the show. Like, we love doing it. It's a ton of fun. Today's show, coming off a game where the Orioles lost and gave up 14 runs, may have been the highest vibes of the season. Just because like this team is just so damn good that they were down 11 and they had the tying run on deck in the ninth inning. Like, that's stupid.
We just curb stomped the Yankees. We could have lost last night's game 14-3, and vibes would still be high on my end. It would be a tough loss, but like, dude, we just took 2 out of 3 in Yankee Stadium in a series when their fans thought that we were the villains for some reason. Like, I already ranted about it.
The Orioles showed their class in that series for sure. And the guy that hit Gunner, he got DFA'd the other day, yesterday. Adit Mahmood, Orioles 17-5 win against the Yankees, almost 2 runs for every time a Yankee pitcher hit an Oriole this year. It was the best response to the fake tough guy act from the Yankees. Right in line with what you were saying.
Absolutely.
Oh no, don't hit Aaron Judge, the big friggin' behemoth with his fake teeth, whose hands sit out over home plate. Get the F out of here. I put out a video the other day. Like, Aaron Judge should be pitched high and tight more than anybody in baseball. When he's healthy,
he struggles there.
Like,
why do you think he gets pitched in?
But more than just that, if he plays 150 games a year, he's hitting 50 to 60 home runs. He's proven that that's the case. He's played 150 games twice in his career. He had 52 home runs and 62 home runs. Like, that's what he does. People don't want to keep giving up home runs to you. They're not going to maybe they're not going to hit you, but they're going to pitch you high and tight to try and get you to not lean out over the plate, so then they can get you with something on the outside corner instead of it going to center field 470 feet. Get used to it, you big ass. Anyway. Golly, man. Also, could Luis Severino be the backup plan for adding a starting pitcher at the deadline? Vet with some playoff experience and spend time in AL East. I'm going to say no for right now because he sucks. But maybe he doesn't suck this year, and I'm just remembering the end of his stint with the Yankees.
He's been fine this year. He had like a 3.12 last time I checked, but strikeout numbers are down a lot.
4-2 with a 3.52 ERA in 14 starts. That's a point. He has a 0.9 WAR, which leads me to believe his peripherals aren't good.
Yeah. So his strikeout rate's way down.
Averaging 6.5 Ks per 9, 7.5 hits per 9, which is down from last year. Everything's down from last year, like in a good way. He's only given up 8 home runs in those 14 starts. I don't know, man. I just don't trust him. I just don't trust him. I have no desire to have Luis Severino on this team.
Me neither.
Country said, it's my team, your team, our team. Best team in baseball is in Baltimore. Go O's, baby. Go O's, baby. This team is the best team in baseball, and it's crazy with all the injuries that they've had. Like, they're unbelievable. Cannot wait to see what they're going to add at the deadline. Also, for those of you saying Jack Flaherty, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. I don't care if his ERA is the best in all of baseball by a full run. I don't want Jack Flaherty on this team.
Agreed.
Oh, all right. That's
all.
There we go.
Agreed.
Randall said crazy game last night. Don C said, I like Luzardo. He's on a dumpster fire team. I think he would be a nice fit here. I think that a lot of his poor performance, and he's been more good than bad. I think a lot of his poor performance is dictated by the fact that he's on one of the worst teams in baseball. Yeah. I think if that team were better, he'd be pitching better.
That's part of it. His peripherals are down a little bit too, but like he was great last year. I think he's going to be fine. He could be a classic change of scenery case and still has a year or two of control at least, I believe.
This was a comment I wanted to get to. Randall said, nail Luzardo, he'd be a rental. No, he would not. He's under team control through 2026. He'd be the ideal candidate to go out and get because you have him the rest of this year, all of next year, all of 2026, and he's 26 years old.
But he would demand a higher prospect return because he's not a rental.
Yeah, that's true.
The catch-22.
Catch-22. All right. Jeff Molnar said, now teams have to deal with the Orioles every day, and then it's without Holiday, Basayo, Norby, and Mayo. Mayo is just tearing the cover off the ball.
Hit his 17th homer last night, I believe.
And I think he homered the day before, too. And he had a double yesterday. Like, Kobe Mayo, I think this dude is pissed off for greatness, just like Gunnar. And I think he's more pissed off right now than he was before because he had that rib injury and it cost him a month of his season. And I think he feels like he could be on the big league roster right now if it weren't for that injury. So now he's just kicking everybody's ass to get up here. Randall says Scott would be a good reliever closer. I wouldn't trust Scott as a closer. I just wouldn't. That walk number for a closer is just too high for me. The hits per nine are really down. He's got a really low ERA, but the walks, I don't trust it. Put him in the eighth inning and let that guy go. But if you get him, he can't be the only reliever because I do think you have to go out and get a closer.
Yeah, we've been there, done that with him in the ninth.
Yeah. Do you think the O's re-sign Santander now? No. I'm not just going to jump to a no. He's pushing to hit 40 home runs this year. And I feel like his average has been 228 for like a month. Like he's hitting 280 this month, and his average feels like it's been 228 the entire month.
Yeah.
The power's there. He's such a likable guy. He plays good defense. He's a switch hitter with power from both sides. I don't know. I mean, he could realistically get 18 to 20 million a year, I think.
Yeah. And you're not going to trade him. I know he's in the final year of his contract. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to trade Anthony Santander to make room for Heston Kjerstad or Kyle Stowers. It's weird, man. I've been on the trade Santander train for like 4 years now. And the closer we get to the end of his Orioles tenure, I'm like not ready for it to end.
Yeah.
He's just so delightful.
He's just a likable dude. He taught himself English so that he could hold his own so he could like do his own interviews.
Yeah. But he still brings his man Q onto the interviews with him.
Oh yeah, that's a dude, right?
Yeah.
You also look at him and like look at the shape that he's gotten himself into. The dude's absolutely jacked, and it's not because he's jacked that I'm talking about. It's because of the fact that like he was injury prone, and so he took it upon himself to get his diet and his workout regimen in tune so that he can make it through a big league season. He is everything that you want in a player. He's just at the end of his contract, and there are guys who are younger and cheaper who might be just as good, if not a little bit better, right? Mm. And it's so weird to say because he's so good. And it's crazy because a month ago we were talking about how bad he was and how like maybe they need to get rid of him. But this is what he does every year. He is making a big case for a huge payday. I don't think it's coming from the Orioles. If he were to sign for $12 million a year, I think you could get it. But, man, Randall's really on this Gilbert case. Seattle needs a bat. Santander and low-end prospect for Gilbert. Not going to happen. Orioles aren't trading Santander. They're not putting him on the block this year. Don C. Paul and Ryan, why haven't they promoted Seth Johnson from Bowie to Norfolk? I think he's ready, and Norfolk could definitely use an arm.
So I saw Seth Johnson pitch last night for Bowie. He got the first two batters out and then walked 4 in a row and then was pulled. Not a good start for Seth Johnson. I do think he's ready for the challenge in Norfolk. He needs to get his command down. His curveball he's got a 45 grade on his curveball on MLB Pipeline. I think it's a lot better than that. I think it has a chance to be a really good offering for him. Needs to work on a changeup. He has one. He doesn't really like to use it, but he's got a fastball that, the Bowie gun, whether you believe it or not, had him between like 95, 98 on the fastball. Slider that looks more like a cutter. It's got a tight bite to it. Sits around 88 to 90. So I don't think he's big league ready. I think if they brought him up to put in the bullpen, he'd be able to hold his own. But I think if they want him to be a starter long term, which without Bradish and Means and Tyler Wells for 2025, they might want him in the rotation next year. So if that's what their plan is for Seth Johnson, I think he's ready for the AAA challenge, but I'm not sure we see him at the big league level this year.
For sure. Randall says no on Fetty. I don't really want Fetty either. You have to do it more than just one season for me. I mean, like you look at Miles Michaelis. Is that what his name was? Out in St. Louis. Michaelis. How do you pronounce his last name?
There was Miles Michaelis. There was Michael Lorenzen, who kind of was a one-year wonder last year.
But Miles Michaelis went out to Japan and he pitched really, really well and got a big contract. And he had a really good first season with St. Louis, and he's just been middling since then.
Yeah.
I see the same for Eric Fetty. I'm not sure that I'm okay with him. Ryan, I know you got to get out of here. If you need to leave, just go ahead and let us know when you're ready to hop off, and I'll finish up.
Yeah, the last few comments are pretty straightforward. I don't have a ton to add to them, so I'll let you roll. But yeah, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I got to dip out a couple minutes early, but we got to get back to the field for this water balloon fight, I guess. And I at least want to say goodbye to my kids. So
Yeah, no, I got you. Hey, you don't have to thank me for having you. You're part of the show.
that's true. That's true.
You're like
Hey,
it's years of my
I'm
show.
back. I know this season was supposed to end 2 weeks ago. We actually, I think the weekend of my wedding was supposed to be the final weekend in the event of like rain, and then everything got rained out all season. So we are 3 weeks later. But yeah, good to go
Dude,
starting next week. Full time.
I played a men's 30 and over league. Last week was my first game since April 28th because of all the rainouts.
Wow. Yeah.
It was I doubled home our only run. I made some great plays, and I pitched a scoreless inning. So it was like I never left, But
there you go.
But all right, man.
Well,
I will. I'll see you next week. Good job.
Back next week in full force. See you then.
See you, man. Don C, you said call-ups will come in the next few weeks. This organization promotes on the players passing certain tests, not just on production. The licensing organization keep marching toward their goals. You're talking about the about like Seth Johnson getting called up to Norfolk. Yeah, they usually make a lot of their promotions around the same time. It's more than just a production that gets them called up. I know that a lot of the guys who talk, like a lot of the pundits, like or analysts like Rock Kabako were talking about how Seth Johnson could make his debut. Before the season started, they were saying that Johnson could make his debut sometime this summer. He'd never pitched above high A before this year. So I didn't see that, but he's also like a huge, huge talent and big pitching prospect. I don't think he makes it to the big leagues this year, but I think he'll be up to Norfolk maybe in the next few weeks for sure. Jeff, you went on to say that you like Mateo, but James McCann, Jorge Mateo, and Ramon Arias production can be improved with our AAA guys. Yeah, I think that Kobe Mayo could be up here sooner rather than later, but Arias is hitting right now. Mateo, there's always going to be a spot on this roster because he plays really good defense at two important positions. He can play the outfield, and he's got that speed, and I think they really like that double play combination with him at second and Gunnar at short right now. I think Mateo is the one guy out of those three that stays here. But I could 100% see, especially if like Mateo might go back to more of a reserve role if they were to call up Mayo and have him play third base. But again, I don't think that they want Mayo playing third base. They have him playing third base down there, but I think that it's like Jordan Westbrook's a really good third baseman and an okay second baseman, and Jorge Mateo is a really good second baseman. The thing with Mayo, if he's going to get called up, like he's got to learn to play the outfield. He's got to play first base more, and he's got to be a DH. But you're not going to not play Mountcastle more often than not. You're not going to take Ryan O'Hearn out of the lineup against right-handed pitching. So as much as I love Mayo, he may still be a good bit out the more I think about it from getting up here. Jeff also said Basayo definitely going to the Tide soon. Basayo might be getting traded someplace soon. It might be the Orioles' top trade chip. If he's blocked to catcher by Adley Rutschman, he's blocked at first base by some guys like Mountcastle, O'Hearn, and potentially Kobe Mayo. Basayo doesn't really have a spot. So the Orioles could get a haul. He's number 14 overall prospect in all of baseball. The Orioles could get a haul for Samuel Basayo. Hopefully he does go to the Tide soon, but he might be traded this year for a top-of-the-line pitcher, maybe a couple. We will see. Don C. The Yankees debacle was fun, but I think Verdugo threatening Mountcastle and Suarez was funny. Also, the catcher going Calzi with the bat, hitting him, hilarious. Verdugo, that was a joke. As far as I know, that was a joke. I think he's got a really good relationship with Mountcastle and Arias, because apparently he was pointing towards Arias. They played on the Mexican team together for the World Baseball Classic. I think he's friends with Mountcastle. He was smiling the whole time. A lot of people thought that was serious. I'm like 98% sure that was a joke, that like Verdugo was just messing around with his buddies. Randall said Elias needs to trade the guys he owes, have no intention of re-signing. Maybe I don't know, man. I don't know how much value Austin Hayes, Anthony Santander, and Cedric Mullins have. And Hayes and Mullins are here next year too. That might be a part of their value in getting them to be traded. in getting them traded is the fact that they're starting to hit now. They're under team control through next season. Santander, unless you plan on re-signing him, I don't hate the idea of trading him, but I do hate the idea of taking him out of the lineup. I guess it's a very contradictory statement. Like what he does for that clubhouse and what he does in that lineup when he's going the way he is, he's too important. I don't know that he gets re-signed, but I don't know that you should be willing to trade him. And then the other guys, James McCann is a free agent. Corbin Burns is a free agent. John Means is a free agent, but he's on the IL. I don't know that you're definitely not trading Burns. I think Brandon Hyde loves James McCann too much to try to trade him. I don't know, man. I don't know that they're going to be trading anybody. Like they're not going to. I think you get some compensatory picks too for free agents to leave and sign with other teams. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I believe that that's the case. I don't think that the Orioles are going to be trading any of their guys who are contributors to this roster that are free agents at the end of the year. I just don't see that happening. And then Randall says, hell no on Flaherty. Hell no on Flaherty. He was pitching well for the Cardinals last year, came to Baltimore, had one good start, and then got his teeth knocked down his throat. And he had a bad attitude about it. I have no desire. Like I said, he could have an ERA, a full run better than everybody else in baseball, and I still wouldn't want him. I just don't trust him down the stretch to pitch in big games. So let's see. Adit said, is Dylan Beavers more likely to be traded than Norby in your opinion? That's so hard. That's so hard because Dylan Beavers is technically he's a former first-round pick, a 2022 first-round pick. He's got a ton of power. He's the Orioles' number 7 overall prospect, and the outfield is pretty crowded. But depends on how much he can play center field, how athletic he is. I haven't seen him play all that much. I just know what the type of makeup he has as a player. I think it's so hard because Norby doesn't have a spot on this team. He's not going to play second base for this team because that's going to be Holiday or Westberg. He's not going to play third base because that's going to be Westberg or Mayo. He's not good enough in the outfield to warrant giving him an everyday spot. The bat is what plays, but he's not going to DH because of O'Hearn and Mayo. I think Norby's a big trade chip. I think Dylan Beavers is a big trade chip. And I think that these are guys who would be highly touted prospects in a lot of organizations, and they're not at the top of the Orioles because of the guys that they have currently. So I think they're both likely to be traded. I think they can put maybe even in the same package. And then Randall finally says, I heard a sports guy say he was a rental. Luzardo is not a rental. He's and we already said that he's under team control through 2026. I don't know what that guy was thinking. Somebody also told another friend of mine that, golly, I can't remember what it was, but it was a stat that was it was something about reverse splits and somebody having like 100 points higher of an OPS against lefties than righties, something like that, and it was completely wrong. Something like that. But some of these people just talk out of their ass. You know what I mean? Now I feel like I'm starting to talk out of my ass. I'm trying to remember things that happened a couple of weeks ago. So I think it's a good time to end the show today. Want to thank all of you for tuning in, being interactive. I try to get it to all the comments every week. Sometimes I fail at that, but really appreciate you guys interacting with us on the show. It's part of the fun of doing it. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our loyal fans, listeners, viewers. Without you, we certainly do not have a show. Remember that if you missed today's show, you can catch it anywhere you get your podcast. We upload it right after the show every single week. So no excuses to not tune in. Guys, thank you so much. Until next week, see ya.